All right, we are good to go. Do you get notified on the other end because you clapped your hands at the exact same time that it went live? Do you get notified on that?
There's a little like recording, or I'm guessing it's a YouTube thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I haven't been on the other side of it. I've always done the producing side. Unless we're doing this on Zoom, then that's of course easy. Everybody knows how to do that. So, welcome, my friend. How goes your world?
Going good, man. Going good. Deep in the midst of summer, so it's always enjoyable to kind of shake things up.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the midst of summer in outside of Austin, Texas, because as you know, I went to Austin, Texas the first time this year. Wasn't no last year. Was it last year? Dates are running together. I think it was last year. And yeah, when you say heating up, that's a true statement.
Yeah.
It's a true
So
statement. So I just got
it
back from South Carolina. Oh, I lost your audio there for a second. Can you say something?
I'm.
Oh,
Can
there
you
you
hear
are.
me?
Yep, I can hear you. No, I came back from South
Cool.
Carolina and I met with the broker owners of large real estate companies, hosted a mastermind, and it was, I mean, talk about warm. It was really warm over there too, and humid. And of course, I always wear a
Right.
suit and tie.
There's they call it like Texas, the Texas business. So there's a lot of jeans that people will rock. It's a very interesting combination, but a lot of um you know combination of business and casual.
So that's an interesting topic that we can kind of go off on a tangent. I remember when I was in real estate. First, I've always wore a suit and tie when it comes to real estate. Even before you knew me, I was the
Hmm.
young baby faced kid that wore the suit that didn't look like it fit. But it was my thing. You always dress for the job that you want. You want to dress to be that person that you want to be, and I can rest. I can say that I am who I wanted to be when I was 25 years ago. But I remember going up into Park City because I was started my career in Salt Lake City, Utah. Went up into Park City, and everybody always says you don't wear a suit and tie into Park City. And interestingly, I had a colleague come up to me while in South Carolina because I have another event to go to next month back in South Carolina to a higher producing group of broker owners. And she's like, you can't wear a suit and tie. I said, oh really? Okay. She goes, no, they'll eat you alive. And I said, okay, challenge accepted. Whatever. I don't lower my standards for anybody. I'm always on my A game. So and I had also when I moved to California, the same thing was said to me at West Hollywood. But here's my point. It's other people always wanting to voice their opinions, what their limiting beliefs are, onto me, because certain people want to dress a certain way. I think
Yeah.
people should focus on upping their style game as opposed to me. And when you're in a business environment, but very rarely do I have people in the audience. Very rarely the people who are there as an attendee. Very rarely do I ever have somebody come up and say anything about a suit and tie. So thought I'd share that with you.
Right. Yeah. There's never a situation where I mean, it's hard to talk down to the suit and tie. We're like, hey, that's not appropriate. They're like, hey, that probably might be uncomfortable, but like, hey, good
Yeah.
on you, right? Like,
Look, I'm not showing
get
up in
that
a
extra
tux. I
mile.
mean, there is a thing called overdress. I'm not showing up in a tuxedo. Uh, if I go golfing, I'm not in a suit. I dress appropriately for each occasion. But when I'm speaking, when I'm there in a business environment around business professionals, this is,
Hmm.
aside from what other people think, this is what makes me more comfortable and allows me to be on my A game to perform at my highest and best use. So,
That makes a
I,
lot of sense.
yeah, I'm more focused on me performing and not necessarily focused on what someone else's opinion is on whether or not I should be wearing a suit and tie. It's weird how it comes up more often than not. It really is. It's really strange.
Hmm. That kind of takes me back when I first started like making videos and stuff and like doing the whole like online thing. I even do like this kind of like casual like dress shirt type thing, and more professional and kind of like, and then over time I'm just like, that's just like, it just didn't feel right, and just naturally, progressed into, my
See,
like
and I
the
love that
t-shirt,
you said that. I
but
love that you said it didn't feel right. You didn't feel right. It wasn't your style,
right.
because when I'm not like that, and you know this, we've had talks about this offline. When I'm not like this, I don't feel right in a business environment. You're one of the very few people
Right.
on the planet that I from we're on the professional side and on the personal side, and so you see the drastic changes. Did I tell you about the brain test that I took?
No.
Oh man, I was in. Uh, you have those personalities tests. You have the DISC test. You have um, and the Myers Briggs. You have all these different personality tests. They all say the same thing about me, but this one was pretty fascinating. When I took the test, I'm like, man, this is stupid. I don't know what any of these questions have to do with anything. And then I go to the event, and the person given the instruction said that some of you may have thought that this was stupid because it didn't make sense. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that was me. And one of my colleagues, she was actually sitting across the table listening to me talk. I'm like, man, what does this question have to do with anything? But anyways, here's what it came out of it. Number one, I'm left-brained. You may have known that. Very action, very challenge-oriented, very focused on getting them, succeeding in the mission. Interestingly, I'm also analytical, so you know that sometimes I do go off on a rabbit hole, but I've gotten better to not going on rabbit holes and just focusing straight on the activity. But one thing it showed was that the test is about nature, not nurture. It's about how you're hardwired. And the way this test said that I'm hardwired was, and it talks about what you are when you're relaxed, when you're not in stress, and they call
Hmm.
stress is like what your work mode is. And it gave this different what your calculation is out of stress and in stress. So at work, not at work, work. And mine was so significantly different. Like the numbers of when I was relaxed, when I was not at work, versus the numbers when I am at work are drastically changed, which means that I'm hardwired to purposely put myself into a certain state when I go to work. Like I'm always on my A game. But you've also known
Mm.
when you and I are not working and when I'm dressed down, I'm a much different, I'm not so serious all the time. So it's interesting how what I learned from that is I purposely put myself into that kind of a state, into a high stress mode, into a let's get her done mode, and
Yeah.
because when I go home, first thing I do is I shed my suit. Sometimes I just go into pajamas. I'll throw on some shorts and a t-shirt, and all of a sudden I'm just like, you know, different Brett. It's like Clark Kent and Superman. I love the fact that I just compared myself to Superman, but I guess I chosen another superhero, but either one would be cool. Batman and Bruce Wayne. I mean, you got to have a lot more money than what we
that
have to be that character, though.
that's funny. I wonder, do you think it's always been like that, or do you think there's some maybe like military, some of your military, or kind of set the stage for that,
No,
or
I think I've always been like that to a degree. I think over time there are certain things that I picked up. I mean, it's impossible not to have changed, but I think I've always been like that. My mom had always told stories about how her friends would come over and marvel that she would have this toddler that would line up their shoes. And even to this day, I have a system for cleaning a room. When I'd have to clean my room, I would pile everything into the center to get everything and just put everything in the center and then start putting out. So I got a system for a system for a system. And so I've always been like that.
so it's nature to the core.
Nature to the core. Now, I will say that when I got into real estate, one of the best things that I did was I joined the Mike Ferry coaching organization, And from a business standpoint, that's where I kind of got my core business belief. Now, over time, um, we talk a lot about the modern consumer journey, so I'm not in alignment 100% with the lead generation methods, the prospecting methods, traditional sales activities, but the business acumen, I'm still a loyal follower. But that's why I started wearing suits that didn't really fit me. Man, I had like double
Mm.
pleated pants and they were big. I used to go into Nordstrom. I'm like, look, just dress me. I don't. Now my wife dressed me. I don't buy anything. Dana gets some. All right.
It's surprising. I feel like you probably have some of your own personal preferences, but she's definitely got the eye for it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. You can actually go back through the videos and the history of me, and you could probably tell when I stopped dressing myself and she started dressing me.
She's like, you know what, hon? Let me go ahead and take over here.
God, that would be early 2000s. That would, let me see, 2001 is when we met. So, all
There you
right,
go.
changing subjects because it's big. It's been trending on Twitter. Have you seen the cage match that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk is talking about having?
I just saw that. Um, that it kind of shocked me that Musk. I mean, if there's something that I don't know, that Musk accepted that, because as far as I know, Musk has been training hardcore and like competing and winning
Yeah, and like
competitions.
jujitsu.
Yeah, like not joking around. Um, but whatever, it's good good internet fun, so we'll see if it comes to fruition, but
You know, one of the guys on the comments on Twitter said instead of them doing a cage match, how about Meta engineers and SpaceX engineers? They come up with like they build their own bot, and then each one of them gets to like a bot wars. And
yeah.
I'm like, okay, acknowledge the idea, dumb idea. Let's see them do a cage match.
Back to the cage match.
Back to the cage match.
Back to the
But where
street
it would be
fight.
fair is if they did like boxing, kind of like what Conor McGregor and Mayweather did.
Yeah.
Is Mayweather wasn't going to do uh, UFC. He wasn't going to do everything. So he's
That's
like, I'll
funny.
box you, but I'm not gonna do
And I'm not
mixed martial arts.
not taking this to the ground for sure.
So I think when they get together, I think that if they do just more of a boxing match instead of a uh, a mixed martial arts, I think that would probably be more fair. All
Yeah,
right.
I I can't honestly see that coming together. Um, it would be entertaining
Be super
for
entertaining.
sure. But
And they would charge tickets, and both of them would donate to the charity. So charities win. Did you see all that news about the sub by the Titanic? Dude,
yeah.
it's tragic. Tragic. Anyways, what's new in Chat GPT world?
Oh, AI. You mentioned last that like a couple weeks ago, you're like, I feel like things have kind of like slowed down. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, I'm not sure if they've just slowed down, or if it's just if we've kind of like normalized the flow of like new stuff, like the newness and amazingness of it has already kind of like
Yeah,
worn off. Um, because we've been, I mean, just in a very short few months, we've seen all these like new stuff hit the market and just blown away by things. And so, but I think now kind of like, okay, what happens next? Where does this all kind of go? It should be interesting to see. Just wrapped up kind of like an AI business boot camp type deal. Just sharing everything that I've been doing recently. And some cool tools. Really kind of like the next thing for in business wise, I see that kind of like needle movers, and we've touched on this before, is it's more of the like autonomous, hey, goal oriented, go do this for me type stuff. Um, so that's just kind of like where my personal focus has been, um, which is which I think will bring a lot of like a lot of value, like B2B value. We say, hey, go get me new customers, right?
So, what I'm noticing, it's just a lot of the AI stuff, a lot of the chat GPT, it's not trending as much anymore.
Mhm.
So there's no doubt in my mind that there's all kinds of battle wars, AI battle wars going behind the scene. But what I am noticing is that everybody's coming out with a training program, and there's a lot of different opportunities to get a training program. I had a good friend reached out to me that I've known for years, great coach, great speaker, invited me to a special chat GPT something today. In fact, what's it called? And let me look this up, and let me drop this name because one of the I don't recognize the name that she said of who it was, and I'm like, yeah, if I can find some time, I'll jump on. I got a bunch of meetings today, but it is. Hold on, the Eventbrite thing is opening up. Now, you just said that you did a Chat GPT boot camp. Is that what you just said?
Uh, yeah, AI. I mean, that was like that's the core foundation of it. So, I mean, obviously, there's ChatGPT, but it was like AI tools. Um, almost kind of like biz op. A lot of it was essentially sharing everything that I've been doing with it over the course of this year, how I've incorporated it into my business.
What do you
Shared
mean
a
this
lot of
year? It only came out. You've been like the things that you've done just in the last 3 months. Is I know it got started, but has it been a year? Has it been
yeah.
since the beginning of this year?
No. I mean, it's this year. I mean, it's June right now. Scenes until Q4 last year, like November, December. December, I started going in deep, like December 22, and then so yeah. I mean, there's 6 months of this year so far, so it's really insane infancy.
Have you ever heard the name of Phil Stringer?
Phil Stringer, I have not.
Me neither, but apparently Phil is an industry leader in AI and Chat GPT.
Yeah, I mean, the 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 thing is like with teaching and training, like it doesn't with with a certain amount of like time, effort, and energy into it, like you can become fairly proficient. The learning curve on it, and I think that has more to do with just the brilliance of the user interface of ChatGPT. Like if the user interface wasn't how it was, it would not be what it is. If you take a look at like, remember when I showed you like the playground version of it, where it's
Oh my
like the
gosh.
front end,
Yeah.
background was the back end, like that user, if it was that user interface to start off with, it wouldn't have
Wouldn't have
it
had
wouldn't
any
have got the
adoption. But making
no
it so there's just a dialogue box just to ask whatever that you want to ask. You're right.
just the simplicity of it, and I think itself is like vastly overlooked in the scope of like how, why it was made such a big impact of it. Just the simplicity of the UI, um, which everybody's accustomed to. Everybody's accustomed to that, that the messenger style, like, hey, I'm just typing in something on my phone, and then there's all this amazing, you know, amazing magic in a, in a single, line of
You know,
conversation.
one thing that I am finding though is that as I've used Chat GPT, and I'm sure that you have as well, I can tell when I read content I'm picking up on nuances, or I'm questioning. I'm like, you know what, this was written by AI, or the
Hmm.
formula, right? Are you seeing that as well? That you can kind of,
Right.
the way that it's kind of structured,
Yeah, totally.
that there's not a
You'll
way,
um
like I don't think Chat GPT is going to be writing any type of fiction or any type of self-help book anytime soon.
yeah, there's definitely nuances that it's very easy to pick up to the discerning eye, and I think that's, I mean, it's easy if somebody makes like a Facebook, like comments in a Facebook post, and it's like, this written out thing. You're like, yeah, well, that's clearly, um, but yeah. So, I mean, I think, and there's something about that too. It's like um, how do we give it its own voice, or to resonate with your own voice, and so it's there's some process to that. I've we take it when I first when we um started trying to train it to be more in line with like my tone, my voice, like pumped in, you know, tons of emails and ad copy and stuff that I've personally written over the course of the last like several years of like, hey, here's information on like, here's how I write, here's like the tone, here's
Really?
my
You did
structure.
that?
Yeah.
So you trained. Okay, so through our conversations, we always hit some sort of thread that I pull on that just like, what? So you
Hmm.
took stuff that you've written, came out of your head, and you're like, hey, Chat GPT, FYI, this is content that this is content that Luke Darling has written.
Hmm.
Use this and start evaluating the writing style and model it. Is that
Yeah,
what you did?
totally. So starting off with like, hey,
Do you
I
need to
want
have
you
the
to be.
playground for that, or do you just do that from the front
No,
end?
you could do it just right in, just like in a conversation. So you start off and like, hey, I want you to be my like head copywriter for my business for brettmatsura.com. Before you begin, I want you to ask like 20 questions about me and my business, so you have a really good understanding of who I am, what my
What?
business is, how I operate. And then after you've gotten a good understanding of me and my business, I'm going to give you multiple pieces of content that you can learn from, to model from my style, my tone, my voice, my semantics, everything. And I want you to model that when helping write my copy, write my emails, write my presentations, whatever
Holy
it is.
cow. I didn't think about that at all. And so now that you've done that, do you only need to do it once? So does ChatGPT have that information to use now? Now I can actually go into that and say, look, I want you to write content for me
Yep.
as if Luke Darling just wrote it.
Yeah. So you have on your sidebar, you have it has like a history. So anything that you have in that conversation has a memory of that. So you can go back to that and say whatever. So and you can do this, like this could be your personal assistant. Like, hey, here's what I'm working on coming up this week. I have this and this, like these events. I need to do these presentations. This is what's going on. Help me formulate yada yada yada. You're my personal assistant. You're my copywriter. You're my health professional. Like, here's my all my blood work that I got back. I want you to come up with a meal plan
This
for
is
me to
nuts.
reduce my cholesterol by 30 points over the course of the next 3 weeks. And I think that I think we're most likely, and this is just kind of like spinning off this topic here. I think we're, as the internet, you know, develops over the course of incorporating AI, I think we're going to see more specialized um, variations of this with specific things. The audience can probably resonate with this really easily. Take Zillow, for example, where Zillow's a search engine for homes, right? It's specialized just in that. So I feel like we're most likely what we'll see is specialized, you know, things for our own personal needs. So it could be like a travel agent, it could be like a doctor, it could be, your own personal AI, but it'll be it'll be like a version of that, like Expedia, where you go to that every time. They know everything about you know your preferences, things like that, and you just jump in and you're like, okay, Dana and I are wanting to go on vacation sometime in September. We're thinking, something warm on the warmer side, yada yada yada. What do you suggest? Right, and it knows everything. um Come up with game plans, activities, so on and so forth.
Did you do that for your last vacation? Is that what you did? Because
I
you guys just went out.
I I had start I for better or worse, I introduced my wife to it, and she was like, "Oh, okay." Like coming up with,
Oh, okay. So that opens up
the,
a whole another variance because I
like,
just read
vacation scheduled.
and it was just dialed in. So
Yeah.
so Jennifer's an attorney, and I just read an article where an attorney used ChatGPT and used it in the form of drafting an opposition. And it turns out that all the case law that was referenced in the opposition was made up by ChatGPT. And so the judge found out. I don't know what happened afterwards to that. Let me see if I can't Google it real quick on what the outcome was. What was the out? Let me see. What was the outcome of the attorneys that used Chat GPT? So, a federal judge on Thursday imposed $5,000 fines on two lawyers and a firm in an unprecedented instance in which ChatGPT was blamed for their submission of fictitious legal research in an aviation injury case. See?
Wow.
That's crazy. Now, number one, they got
Check your
fined.
sizes.
Yeah. Number two, if you're going to use
Yeah.
ChatGPT, you've got to double check it. Like it's not like I use it. I don't use it to that degree. I don't use it to the degree that you're using it. I'm still using it as apparently I still have my training wheels on. Like I haven't even learned how to walk yet because I'm just using it to just, hey, this is what I'm thinking I want to do. Can you just put a framework together on it? And then once it puts out
Yeah.
the framework for me, then I just take it offline and then I work through it. So I'm using it more as just
Hmm.
a wow. I mean, there's so many indications to it, but I'm guessing if you haven't heard that, then Jennifer probably hasn't heard about that. But there's I wonder how
Yeah.
his clients felt. He got a $5,000 fine from the judge, but how would their clients feel that they're paying $4, $5, $6, $700 an hour, if not more, and they just drafted a whole opposition using ChatGPT?
He's not even doing it. He's paying some virtual assistant in
Yeah.
India to do all his work for him. He's like, wrap me up. Duh, man. Yeah. Cite your sources. Check your work. Just because it can pass the bar with at 90% doesn't mean it's But you know that's will probably that will probably be a thing very soon here, where it's like, hey, lawyer GPT.
God, but now you have Apple entering into the the vision, the AR
Mhm.
augmented reality goggles,
Yeah.
lack of a better term. Now, if you think about where the phones have come in the last 20 years, I remember, when they came out with actually, they came out first with a brick phone that you had to carry around the battery pack. Remember that? But now you look at where
A
they're at now.
suitcase.
Now you add that to where the technology is on this first generation of these AR goggles, and Meta's doing the same thing. And you kind of envision what it's going to be in 10, 20 years. Dude, it's going to be like Iron Man stuff. You're going to have a heads up display wearing your glasses, maybe even your contacts. You're going to have a heads up display It's going to be listening to everything. Like
Or
you
your
just said that
Neuralink.
ChatGPT took a 90%. And if you're sitting there talking to yourself and you're reading the question out loud and you have augmented reality giving you the answers. Nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I just came up with that, in 10, 20 years, Luke, we may come back to this video. I'm like, see, called that.
Yeah. That I'm. That's. It's to me that's almost a foregone conclusion. Like that's where we'll be, and probably in less time than that, with the speed of advancement of things, especially with AI. Like the speed of you take a proficient coder or somebody who can, now
Yeah.
they're 10 times more effective.
Yeah. People are getting laid off. So you
And
take
it's
someone who has that initial coder and you enable that person to 10x their work by using this as a tool.
Mhm.
And that's where you get those layoffs. In fact, I just saw that I saw this yesterday. Is that the unemployment claims is the highest since 2021. I can't remember what month, but this is following what was March of 2020 when when uh, when COVID, the pandemic hit and the economy got shut down.
Mhm.
So that lag time, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. We got robots coming in and doing people's jobs. We've got high inflation. We've got low inventory. We've got there's one thing that Jim Rohn has often said, and we're coming up on time. The one thing that I've taken from the late Jim Rohn, and he's like, the same wind blows on us all. And
Mhm.
the difference in arrival isn't the blowing of the wind, it's the way you set your sail. So I hope a lot of people are paying
Amen.
attention, because the way that your sail has been set, just because it's worked one way for a long time, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to reset that into a different direction. So I'm going to use that and actually implement that into some of my talks.
It's a good line for sure. Can't adjust the wind, but you can adjust your sails.
Yep.
Can't change the
All
wind,
right,
but you
we
can
are
adjust
at
your sails.
time. So for those of you that caught us live, thank you for attending. If you guys have any questions or comments, please go ahead and put those in the space provided wherever you're watching this. So
Rock and
any
roll.
parting words, Luke?
Let's get it.
Rock on. Bye, everyone.